All right, let us make sure. Okay, yeah. So we are live. Let's give everyone a chance to kind of get on in here. What is going on today? My Facebook friend. Alrighty.
There we go. Facebook. Okay.
Uh-oh. Okay. All right. Real quick, people. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So much better.
Are we up?
Yeah, I'm just not saving, sharing to the groups really quick
How
before
come I
we.
don't see it?
Do you see it? You know what? I didn't see it on my actual page either. But it's on the Sickle Cell Experience. I had to share it to my page from there. So I'll go back later and see if it's just not sharing to my personal pages for some odd reason.
Okay.
All right, I think I'm almost done. All right.
There we go.
Okay. So there we have it. Are you ready to start?
I am ready to go. Here we go.
All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us here on the Sickle Cell Experience Live. We are coming to you to a Facebook and a YouTube near you. It's been a little minute, sickle cell happens, life happens, and so we're back. And I myself am Shabreon Howard. I am a filmmaker, writer, um, photographer, co-founder, and co-host of the Sickle Cell Experience Live, and also the child of a sickle cell patient, as well as have the illness as well. So yeah, that is who I am.
Okay. Hello, I'm Marissa Kors. I'm a 44-year-old fifth generation sickle cell patient advocate, author, and the co-founder and co-host of the Sickle Cell Experience. Welcome back. It has been like 2 weeks since we've been here, at least. Um, as my partner said, sickle cell happens, but we're here and we're blessed and we're thankful. Amen. What are we talking about today?
Oop. We will be discussing the sickle cell patient expert advocate experience and all that great stuff and the mission and so on and so forth.
And so on and so forth. That was real complete right there. I just
You
want
know,
you to know
I try. I try.
that was real complete right there. Yes. As soon as I get finished sharing, give me 1 minute because I want everybody to be able to see this and hang out with us because I think that we have a very good show today, and people should see it live. Like it's okay if you have to catch us, later. We're okay with that. But when you get to see it live, it's just so much more everything. Yeah, would you agree?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just feel
Okay.
like, if you can interact with us and comment with us and everything, it will be great, to hear from
Yes, and we have been using this app for a while now, and it does allow you guys to jump on with us, and it does allow you all to like get on the live, show your face, and basically interact and tell us your comments and your feelings about whatever it is we're discussing in the moment. So I don't know if the link is dropped yet or if we'll just drop it later on, but it is there, and we would really love for you guys to utilize it. Um, and alrighty, I am done sharing.
it.
Let's go.
Hello, Malik.
So,
Just wanted to
hello,
let you
Malik.
know Dan's one of the first to comment. Appreciate you. The link is also in the comments for everyone. Um, so if you want to join in, you can do so by clicking the link. It works better if you have a computer, laptop. Um, if not, please don't be mad at us if the phone doesn't exactly work. We're sorry. It's not us, it's the program.
It's not
So
us, it's the program. That should
yeah,
be like a song or something, I swear, because
put it up as
Lord
a
knows we be going through it with these programs. Okay, so let's get to it because I know it's 10:30 on the East Coast, and you guys are like, "What's going on? Why are you so late?" Today we are talking about advocacy and the mission of the advocacy. So I guess I'm starting. So for those of you who may or may not know, Access Advocacy for Sickle Cell Disease, which is my family's nonprofit foundation, we have recently launched the Met, Medical Patient Advocate Training and Education Program. And what that is a program in which we are training anybody who really wants to be an advocate and has a calling to be an advocate, but patients, caregivers, advocates, medical providers, whomever, uh, to come, and basically it's a 3-month program in which you get medical sickle cell training. So you get to learn about things like normal saline versus half saline. You get to understand the conversion tables from taking your pain medications from oral med to IV meds. Um, you learn things about, what is a retic count, things of that nature. And that is taught by Dr. Simone Uwan of Dr. Simone Says. And then you take a class called Patient Tools, in which we break down in three separate webinars: policy, laws, procedures um, that hospitals use that could be helpful to our care, but most times they don't use them in that way. We teach people about my chart, and we walk them through our new website and soon to be new app. Please, app gods, let Apple get our app up. Um, Called hashtag stopsicklecellabuse.com. And then we take you through the wellness journey, or the spiritual journey of living with sickle cell. And basically, that surrounds the whole idea that sickle cell is not a one off. Most of us treat our hospital visits as a one off issue. And we go to the hospital, we deal with crazy, and then we come back to our lives as if the crazy never happened. And then when it comes back around, it's like we start all over again. Um, we are trying to teach people how to incorporate the the fact that it's not if you're going to go back to the hospital, but when, and that being prepared and having a plan and basically controlling the chaos that sickle cell brings as much as you can really does affect and make your experience at the hospital a much more positive situation, and it gives you more control over what's happening as well. Um, so if you would like more information on this, please go to www.stopsicklecellabuse.com, sign up, become a member. We will write back and give you more information. And there you can learn about the Stop Sickle Cell Abuse mission and the vision and all of that. So, yay! I'm very excited. Let's get into it. What is the mission of advocacy?
All right, everybody. So, you know, what would we want from people everywhere to recognize us as patients? If not anything, we know us well. We're professionals about ourselves. We're experts about ourselves, and we should be listened to and taken seriously. So when you think about our mission, what we really want for people all over, our family, doctors, nurses, anybody really, to understand is that we know our illness, we know about us. So that's really our mission. Going forward, Marissa, what do you say about that?
Mm, yeah, I would agree that that's the broad view of it. Um, but really, as an advocate, our mission and our purpose is to be a resource of support, to be an educational resource to both our patients and their medical providers, and ultimately to be um, a conduit of better communication between the two parties. When I was a mediator, my mentor in mediation used to say, our job is to bring people from the fight to the light. because we do a lot of divorce. People go through divorce, they get angry and mean, kind of like the medical field does when they deal with sickle cell patients that know their rights. But yeah, our job is really to bring them from the fight to the light, you know. And if we do it properly, by the time we're done, our patients have gotten an education in advocating for themselves. They've learned better communication techniques and tactics. Um, and ultimately, they probably won't need us the next time around. And on the medical side, if we've done our job correctly, we have now changed the doctor or the nurse's viewpoint on sickle cell as a disease, um, and hopefully just on what to expect from sickle cell patients, period. Hopefully we have recruited some people to the team and to the cause, of understanding that as patients, we are the expert. While they're running around looking for a specialist, while they're running around, Googling sickle cell and the best way to treat, their expert is in the bed, because nobody knows more about sickle cell and how it has acted in that one body than the person that body belongs to.
Mhm.
And the next in line when it comes to experts is probably the person sitting next to the bed, which is the caregiver slash advocate slash patient slash spouse, whatever else you want to tag on to that has brought the patient in and has been sitting with them since they got there, and watching over them and making sure that they're okay. And we really want to get the medical community to begin to understand this concept, and not only understand it but respect it and accept it. So that's what our mission is, I would say, to go from eminence based medicine, in which basically what the doctor says goes, and the patient doesn't have a real voice, to evidence based medicine, in which the doctor and the patient work in concert and work together to give the patient the best care possible, especially when it comes to their pain management. Yeah. So, ouch. Um, so, why do we need advocates?
Mhm.
Why do we need them?
Oh, well, it's actually imperative to have advocates because really a sickle cell patient is in a constant life or death situation, especially in the hospital. You know, people don't understand how serious it actually is and how it can go from, oh, I'm just having a little pain or I'm in pain, to like, I'm in ICU, hooked on, you know, breathing
Hmm.
tubes, and no one, understands what I want unless I voice that to someone, and mainly it will be an advocate, someone there who can be there to listen, you know, to know, okay, this is what the patient wants, and to help bring that to fruition, and to help guide that, and to be that standing point between, the life or death stage in any part of their
Hmm.
lives, and just really bring a more better quality of life to a situation.
Yeah, exactly. I would agree on all of that. Um, you need an advocate because at the end of the day, it's really hard to have to be the manager of your medical care while you are in the amount of pain that we experience.
Mm-hmm.
And sickle cell, um, sickle cell is has been proven, I mean, known to be the worst pain that the body inflicts upon itself. Let me repeat that for you. It is the
Mm-hmm.
worst pain known to man that the body inflicts upon itself. That means that you didn't have to do anything but be breathing, and you are experiencing this horrible, excruciating pain that now requires you to go to other people to help you get through it. Nobody wants to be in that type of pain and still having to tell people what to do, still having to watch over people to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing properly, to make sure that they don't kill you. I mean, let's just keep this 100. So that's why advocates are imperative, so that you as the patient can relax and let the medications do their job, so that when you go to sleep, you're not afraid that when you wake up, all of a sudden somebody's going to be standing over you talking about, oh, you slept for 3 hours, so you can go home now. No.
Mm-hmm.
No. Oh, well, you fell asleep for an hour and it took me 5 minutes to wake you up. So I feel like you're over medicated. So, we're going to stop all of your pain meds right now. Hell no. That's what we're not going to do. So that's why you need an advocate. Um, and why you need a medical advocate, an advocate that's trained and has some sort of, medical training, is because, you know, it's just one more weapon in the arsenal to help you get the care and fight for the care that you need. You know, if we can explain to a doctor, in their language, why it's not okay to just cut somebody off of their IV pain medications immediately and expect them to, you know, be okay, then we probably have a greater chance of them not doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Not only that, but we also have a greater chance of them beginning to accept us as being knowledgeable, is being educated about the topics we're discussing with them, and not having to deal with the image and the narrative that we've been fighting for generations now, which is that of the troublemaking, drug addicted, faking, you know rude, uneducated, uncivilized sickle cell patient that nobody wants to deal with. That's the narrative. That's the image we have been combating for generations now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I know for me, I went to the school of perfect professional patient university. Okay, like no, for real, like it was always yes, no, please, thank you, I appreciate you. Even when they hurt me trying to find a vein that I told them 10 times wasn't going to be there, I was still, and it still is, thank you for trying. you know um, Understanding how the hospital works, understanding hospital codes of conduct, understanding the chain of command, um, all of those things, were drilled into me because you don't want to be mistaken as one of those sickle cell patients. Oh my God, I'm so relieved you're not that kind of sickle cell patient. And the crazy part is that as I got older, And as the internet became more and more accessible, and as we as a community began to find each other, I found that stereotypical sickle cell patient does not really exist. And the
Not
ones that do, act out, quote unquote, act out every now and again or whatever, a lot of them have a good reason for doing so. They're not just there raising hell because they have nothing better to do. So, we definitely need advocates in our corner. We need them there because they're part of our community. Again, they could be patients themselves, they could be caregivers themselves, they could be providers, but they're part of our community, which means they add to the positive image that we uh, are trying to create and have, so that we don't spend half of our hospital time trying to convince the people that are taking care of us that we're not that stereotypical patient.
Yeah, I don't think people understand how much pressure it really is on a patient, especially a patient advocate, to be in the hospital. Just to to be, to act a certain way, do certain things, keep this image of like, okay, this is how we are. You know, this is how we really are. This is not why you take our take us serious because you think we're all alike. If I can show you anything, it's that we're all amazing and we all deserve the chance to show you, you know, this is how we live. This is not something we can help.
Mhm.
These are the cards we were dealt, so we live them, having to just make sure, you know, you're dressed properly, you don't do the wrong thing, having to let the people in the hospital know, like, oh, I didn't sleep for like 3 days because I was in so much pain. So I'm gonna be tired. I'm gonna be exhausted.
Mhm.
So excuse me when the medication finally starts working, I will be sleeping. And it's actually a side effect. It's a thing. You will sleep. People have to sleep. And actually
Mhm.
just having that conversation with them and having to, make sure they're understanding why you want to make the medical decisions you want to make and how beneficial it is for you. It's a lot of pressure, and it's very it's demanding. It really is demanding, and everybody can say, oh no, it's pretty. No, no, no. That alone is a lot of like, you know strain and stress to even just
Mhm.
say, I'm not one of those patients, even though we know there are not very many of those patients anyway. you know.
Exactly.
So it's it's
Exactly.
difficult to keep everybody happy. Pretty much
Mhm.
everybody. Here's the word comfortable because they like to use that word so much.
Oh, yes.
Keeping
Yes.
everybody comfortable is not easy.
Mhm.
And I think they take it for granted, you know, how much is actually done to make sure everybody's comfortable. I have to, as a patient myself and as an advocate, I have to make sure my daughter's comfortable and she's not seeing, how sick I am. I have to make sure the doctor understands how sick I am by not, but also showing them I'm very knowledgeable about the things that, are affecting me. So it's like this full circle of like, I don't want to say mess is not the word, but it's a lot.
It's a full shenanigans. Let's just go shenanigans. Shenanigans is a nice way to say it because that's what it is. It is
Yeah.
shenanigans that
Yeah.
we are are put through and that we have to, deal with. The fact that everything is put upon us to make everything okay, you know, like it's a lot. It's a lot to constantly have to be worried about, your nurses' mood swings and emotional and mental health, or, whether your doctor had a great day and is he going to take it out on you. Why are we responsible for their, you know, comfort?
Yeah.
Why is it that we have to watch every little step that we take, in order to make sure that they aren't going to read our actions any differently? You know, that's horrible. And what all of that is us managing the the communal image of sickle cell. That's us really trying to show them that we're not like that, because for whatever reason, for generations, this idea of the horrible sickle cell patient, the ungrateful sickle cell patient, the patient that is here just taking up time and space and whatever else just because they're drug addicts, the lazy patient that doesn't have anything else going on at home. So they're going to come to the hospital and be waited on and get high. Like, seriously, though, that person does not exist. But we spend a great majority of our time in the hospital combating that. And it is absolutely
The
exhausting.
stereotype. Mm-hmm.
And the fact that it goes from like the head of the hospital down to the janitor and everyone in between. Like, we have really no one on our side. So, yes, advocates are desperately um, needed, because even when we do everything right, and again, when I tell you the perfect patients are us, is sitting right here in front of you, I'm not making this up. If you go to my page now, you will see pictures of me in the hospital, fully dressed, hair done, nails done, face done. Room is perfect. Room is decorated. Like me creating a sanctuary, and I didn't do that for myself. I did that for them so that they could be comfortable coming in to care for me. But the cancer patient that was smelly and irritating and rude and cussing people out next door, they didn't have to do all of that to get the same or even better care than I was getting. And I damn near had to produce a movie star effect in order to do so. No, seriously, like you all see me like this, but this is not my everyday. But in the hospital, this is my everyday. I'm up at 5 o'clock. I've taken a shower. I bathed. I brushed my teeth. Everything is in order. I'm ready to go. Okay. The phlebotomy's coming in. The doctor's coming in. The nurse is changing shift. And I'm there up waiting to greet everybody, just so they don't have that negative communal image of me as an individual. And and that's unfortunate. It's incredibly unfortunate.
We have a comment from Stephanie. She says, I'm sorry, I'm going to read it from
I'll
here.
read it. Let's talk about how everyone from the head of the hospital to the janitor even knows we have sickle cell. That breaks HIPAA, but yet and still, everyone in the hospital knows what we have. And that is so true. Um, and that goes back to the respect issue and the onus that, it falls upon us, you know. Oh, well, it's obvious you're a sickle cell patient. Like I had somebody tell me that once. Well, it's obvious you're a sickle cell patient. How is it obvious? Outside of the fact that I'm a woman of color in pain. And ultimately, all she had was, well, I mean, because of the medication that we give you, like nobody else gets medicated like that and is still standing. So I'm like, it's kind of obvious. Oh, okay. Or could it be that you didn't say my name while you were sitting outside talking to your friends, but you said, oh, yeah, there's a sickler in 4208? And let's talk about that word because sickler, addict, frequent flyer, all of those words, hard stick, all of those phrases are just another way for them to have to not acknowledge us by name, to have to not acknowledge us really as a patient. All of those phrases really are dehumanizing. And in my personal opinion, is what makes it easier for them to not issue the proper care that they know we need. Like like these are not stupid people that we're talking about that work in hospitals. These are very smart, capable people. They know 1 + 1 = 2, but for some reason, when it comes to us as a culture, a workplace culture, they have decided that all of that can be set to the side and replaced with whatever they feel like doing that day. Denise Morrison. I'm the caregiver of a sickler, and he never wants me to leave him alone at the hospital because the nurses and doctors don't listen to him when he is telling them how he is feeling. And I completely understand that. And it's not so much that they don't listen, but it's the fact that they don't listen and it's done with prejudice. It's done in a way that makes you feel so alone and so uncared for and so unworthy. And then you're trying to figure out, like, what did I do other than come to the place that society and the federal law says I had to come to in order to get the care that I need, that I then have to fight so hard for. And no one has an answer other than, well, you have sickle cell and it's just, no, pay me. Like pay me, really. We're gonna stop this. This whole attitude got to go. And that is our purpose for hashtag stop sickle cell abuse. Because nobody should be in a hospital. Hospitals never close, the lights never go off. People are always around. No one should ever feel lonely, unwanted, unheard, and uncared for in that type of environment, especially one that was supposedly built to care for people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it all goes back to the fact that as a group, we do not control our own narrative and we do not control our own image. And, I'm sure a lot of you out there are like, what the hell are you talking about? We don't control our own narrative. What do you mean by that? Well, let me explain real right quick what I mean. Cancer patients have a narrative that, you know, oh, you have somebody that was just living their life, doing their thing, and then one day they're diagnosed with the big C, and now they have to make this huge transition from being healthy, normal person to being a patient. And in that narrative, in that transition, the narrative says that they are strong and that they are resilient and that these are people that are deserving of compassion and care because of all they go through with cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that, oh, somebody, everybody knows somebody who's had cancer. You know what? It's probably more of a likelihood that everybody knows somebody that has sickle cell or sickle cell trait, being that we're the largest hereditary illness in the world.
Everybody got a cousin.
Everybody got a cousin. It never fails. Everybody got a cousin, right? So the narrative for cancer is we must take care of these people. We must support them at all costs. So you got men walking around wearing shirts that say save the tatas and, you know, organizations that adopt breast cancer awareness month and everything that they produce is pink. Um, that is their group narrative. You know, AIDS has a community narrative, you know, and they've managed to change their narrative in a very short time span when you really look at it. AIDS narrative went from this is an illness of, you know, I hate to use this word, but disgusting people, people who are on the outskirts of the community. This is the gay cancer. You know, it was to say that you had AIDS was really to isolate yourself totally completely from society because it was like, what kind of, you know, bad, weird sexual things are you engaging in? Or it was just as simple as you must be gay and that's how you got AIDS. You know, it was just this horrible community narrative that AIDS was a disease of people that had no morals, had no values, and then therefore they deserved to die and to die alone and feeling worthless. And it wasn't until, oh my God, the Red Cross refused to throw out the blood supply, the contaminated blood supply. And now, oh, upstanding citizens and children are coming down with HIV and AIDS. Oh my God. Well, they can't be, you know, put into the same grouping as the delinquents over here. Well, we got to change that.
Yeah.
And you know what happened? Those delinquents, those quote unquote horrible, nasty people, those people got together and said, what you're not going to do, you're not going to do this. You're not going to make this image the last vision of my loved one, whether that was their life partner, their sister, their mama, whoever. Those people got together and said, this shit right here, that was my one for the night, ain't gonna happen. It's not. And we're going to do better.
Mm-hmm.
And they turn their image from being, you know, bad, disgusting, law breaking delinquents that did something that brought this upon them to one of the most educated and health conscious communities on the planet, in the country. You know, you don't have to beg, you know, someone in the LGBTQ, are they still plus community,
Yeah.
to go have an HIV test or say, have you ever had one? Because they made it a point to make that part of just everyday life, while the rest of the world kind of, oh, we're grateful the tests are there, but I don't want to know. They're like, no, we want to know. And not only do we want to know, but now we're going to go lobby so that you guys make medication so that we're living. And now HIV is no longer a death sentence because they changed their narrative.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and they did it in less than 30 years. Let's keep that 100,
Yeah.
because I was like 4, well, 81 when the whole AIDS thing really blew up, and by 2000, you did not make disparaging remarks about AIDS, HIV, and those who had it. It was not a nice thing to do. It's not an acceptable thing to do. So what I say is, if it's not acceptable to say to somebody who has AIDS, you must be gay or you must be having some weird ass off the wall type sex. And if it's not okay to say to a cancer patient, oh, you got cancer, how many packs of cigarettes were you smoking a day? Oh, okay, well, what were you inhaling? Then it should not be acceptable to say to a sickle cell patient, how do I know that you're in a crisis? And if you are in a crisis, how do I know that your pain is as bad as you're telling me it is? That phrase needs to be on par with them other phrases of shit that you don't say, you don't even think about it, let alone say it. If you make a mistake and dream about saying it to a patient, you got to get up and make a beeline to apologize to that patient or the first one you come across, because it's just that wrong. And that is part of reclaiming our narrative, taking our narrative from us being, you know, uneducated, horrible, lying, drug seeking, resource using, abusive patients, to a community of well educated, well mannered, incredibly smart, incredibly. Uh, you want to talk about a profile? You want to talk about reading somebody? Hi, all of us. You want to talk about people who have learned how to get over, under, through, around, and remade a system just so that we can succeed? That's us, and that's the narrative that we want. That these are people who are willing to work with you because they don't want to be here no way. How do
Mm-hmm.
you know, besides the fact that I just told you, take my retake count? Yes, that is something that you can tell doctors when they start talking about, how do I know you're a patient? I mean, you're in pain. But the point is that we should never have to answer that question, because it shouldn't be one. Because it should be drilled into them that it's not acceptable.
No.
So, now that, we know what the narrative is and what the image is, like what should support look like? What do you think?
Um, I think support from other advocates, even family members, to just look like standing in the gap of where we are missing. We're missing people. We're missing the numbers. We're missing all the people that we care and want to do things for us and say they want to. It's time to start doing. Like you just said, in the AIDS community, after their, family members or partners or whoever passed on, they made their mission to say this is not how they live their lives. So in death, I'm going to make sure I change this narrative. We can't
Mhm.
change that narrative on our own. As much as we try and we try and we try, it's never going to be that. And I think that a lot of the times, even our own family members underestimate us. And they see us the most struggling to overcome things, see how much of an overcomer and just fighter we truly are. And honestly, like, as someone who has watched my mother struggle and really go through it with sickle cell and all that she had to go through, um, I don't think that, of course, when I was younger, I didn't get it. But a lot of the times people ask me why I fight so hard. And yeah, I mean, the natural answer would be like, oh, yeah, because I have sickle cell. But really and truthfully, it's not for me. It's never been for me. It's because to see my mother struggle the way she did and try so hard to live her life, try so hard to be the best mother she could be. And even still, her life was cut short. And
Mm-hmm.
what was she reduced to being? What a sickle cell patient is looked at as, you know, still. And this is, my mother is 20 years older than me. So to have that be her legacy for the rest of my life and generations to come, being, oh, drug seekers and lazy and this and that, and even to hear, certain comments and remarks, like, to catch things even from family, certain things being said, like, it's like, I don't think you quite understand how sickle cell truly affects someone, to even say,
Mm-hmm.
oh, that person was lazy. Like, do you know how hard it must have been for her body, going through dialysis, going through kidney failure and heart failure and being a mother and all that she had to go through. So I think that really and truthfully, the support should come from everyone. And it has to change. The narrative has to change by everybody. And it should not be, oh, this one person is the exception because this person is difficult. Maybe,
Mm-hmm.
just maybe, this person is just uncompromising about the type of care they want to receive. And that's okay. Because when I go into the hospital, people might think I'm difficult. And I'm okay with that. Because as long as I make it out, I don't care. I don't care. Call me difficult. If
Mm-hmm.
you work a little bit harder to take care of me the way that I require you to, I'm fine with that. And to have anyone in my circle to say, oh, well, maybe you should just, no. For what? It needs to come from every corner, doctors, nurses, anybody that truly says they care about a sickle cell patient, show it. Truly
Mm-hmm.
support them in every way and show it. If your support can only come as far as if you hear someone over saying, oh, yeah, that person, I don't really know if they're sick, educate them if you know. And if you don't
Yeah.
know, you get educated and then you are able to educate people. I'm so sick and tired of talking to people and they're saying, oh, yeah, I know what that is. My cousin have it. Do you know really? Like, do you understand what sickle cell is? Like, I
When
cannot
was the
speak
last
it
time
enough
you
to
talked to
it.
that cousin? That's what I want to know.
Right. I
When did
can't
you see him
stand that
last?
statement. And they think
The
that's
family
like a form
reunion
of
10
like,
years ago.
right. They think that's like, oh yeah, I know what that. No, don't tell me you have a cousin that have it. That's not telling me you know what it is. That's telling me you know who has it. But do you really truly know what they go through? You're saying,
Mm-hmm.
if you say, oh, I have a cousin that have it, yes, he or she really struggles with this, but they're strong and they're resilient and they make sure they still try to live their life. Okay, then maybe I think you get it. But if you just stop at, oh, I got a cousin named Keisha over there, in the back that got it. And for those of you who are my cousins that might just, I love y'all, but don't say that.
And so,
Don't say that. Don't say that. It's too many videos on my profile for y'all to see what I go through in education for you to just stop there. It's annoying.
Mm-hmm. It
I'm
really
sorry.
is. Just saying.
I don't really, I think I kind of lost myself for a second because I really like.
No, but it's real. What you're saying is true because we can't do it alone. I mean, honestly, I want everybody to take a moment that's watching this now and those of you who are going to watch later, but truly take a moment and think about the the number of times you have been hospitalized or in an infusion center or just at a family event and how exhausting it it was to just be the only representative for sickle cell and how exhausting it was to have to educate and be concerned about making other people comfortable and 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 at the same time still taking care of yourself and making you comfortable and getting you better as an individual trying to change the image and the narrative for an entire group of people. Just think about how tired how that made you feel, and then let us know in the comments, you
The
know.
number of times we have to have the talk, like, and it comes in so many different forms. It's ridiculous. Like, you don't just have one talk with like one person. Like, I had to have the talk today. You know, my daughter
Hmm.
had a parent teacher conference today, and what do I have to do every year before school start? I have to go and I have to announce myself as the sick parent.
Yep.
Understand, get that person to understand you're not just dealing with, you know, a sick
A
parent, but
cold.
the child has needs as well. And especially in this day and age and COVID and all this stuff that's going on, to really have to stress that, okay, you know, uh you guys are going back to cafeteria. Can we see if my daughter can sit in the nurse's office? Like, is this something that I want to do? Is this a conversation that I would like to have? No. But for our safety and for her knowledge, I have to have it. And it comes in so many different forms.
Hmm.
And either, like I was told, and I swear I told Nana earlier, if I had $1 for every time I got that phrase, you don't look
Man,
sick. You don't look sick. If I had $1, do you know how rich I'd be right now?
real talk.
Every
Like,
time
for real.
I didn't look sick. I oh, thank you. I mean, it's a compliment, but not really. Like, because it really gets to
No.
people like, oh, you look normal, you look fine. You're not really sick, you're just saying these things. When really, if I could turn my body inside out and you can see
Be a
what,
whole other situation. They'd be like, oh my God, what's wrong? Oh my God, how are you walking? Oh my God, how are you standing here? If they could see. And that is so true. And the thing is, if you are a parent with cancer, Mila would have all of the understanding and room in the world, you know? And I'm sure that there are other parents out there with sickle cell who have run into issues at their child's school because maybe your kid was late to school or maybe your kid missed school because you had to go to the hospital and you didn't have anybody to watch them and you didn't have a way to get them to school. And instead of the school, you know, being compromising and compassionate about it, they, that you with punishment and impunity. Oh, well, the next time this happens, we'll have to sit down and figure out if you're a proper, parent. What? No, that's what we're not going to do today. That's like hell to the no. Absolutely not. You know, or, well, your kid might get held back because, truancy laws. No, that's not going to happen either.
I
Nope.
swear. If Nyla
You
was
got
not as
me confused.
advanced as she was, like I swear, so much stuff just based off fully that Nyla is just Nyla.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It would
Yeah.
be so different if she wasn't, if she wasn't as bright as she is. I would have so many more problems because of that, like because of truancy and this and that. But really, you have to go where you're celebrated and not where you're tolerated, and that's really
Mm-hmm.
the key. And I think that you know people people understand or they don't, but at the same time, you have to get behind. You know, there was a school that my daughter went to first, and they did not understand whatsoever. They were not understanding. They just didn't care, you know. And so I went. They transferred me to this school that she's at now, and my daughter. They understand. Like I don't gotta go. I don't have to walk 10 minutes to her bus stop. They make sure she gets picked up. All I gotta do is look outside my door and make sure she get to the bus. It's a straight walk,
Mm-hmm.
like right
Yeah.
there to the bus. And really and truthfully, that alone gives me so much help and support. And I know that they know that, but at the same time, I don't think that they really truly understand or grasp how hard it could be during winter walking 10
Mm-hmm.
minutes, or during summer, walking 10 minutes in the sun back and forth. So that's 20 minutes out of my day and then waiting for her. So, like I said, sometimes you have to understand the support has to come from everywhere. And that includes children's schools everywhere.
Yeah, it truly does. And all of this, it feeds into, when we talk about support, but it all of this sort of the negative narrative, the negative communal image, the way that we are sort of ignored and pushed to the side by our own, families and people, regardless of what the reason is, you know, all of this um, feeds into, and I believe sort of helps to grow what I call the culture of cruelty
Mhm.
that dominates our medical system when it comes to sickle cell. There is no other illness that I can think of. And if y'all can think of one, please put in the comments or hit the link and hop on and let me know. But that I can think of where both the illness and the patient are so incredibly disliked and so incredibly vilified. And for what reason? When it comes to how our medical providers view, speak on, and treat sickle cell patients, it's absolutely disgusting and wrong. And they know they're wrong. And it is cruel. It is a workplace, you know, culture, workplace conduct. And there have been many studies, done on this. You see it in the police force where people put on that uniform and they might go from the most mild mannered person to now they like G.I. Joe on steroids because they are being influenced by workplace conduct and workplace culture. And that culture says you got a gun, you get to be macho man and the man in charge, and you get to allow your testosterone to go to 2,000 from 0 to 20,000 in 2 seconds. And it's okay if you shoot somebody because it was going to be their fault anyway. What?
Well,
Oops. My bad, you know, and it and you're going to be protected by the government. Well, equally so in medicine, right? Medicine is one of the most toxic environments I've ever been in. From
Systematic racism,
the
the
people,
prejudice.
the man, how they treat the students, how they treat the residents, how they treat women, how they treat people of color. I have never had to save and be an ear to so many people as I have at Cedar Sinai in dealing with residents and new people and nurses and whatnot, because it's just a stressful environment naturally. And then you add the codes, the unwritten codes of conduct. Oh, doctors don't need to ask questions. Doctors don't need hand holding. Doctors don't need help. Oh, well, you're a nurse, so you're not that important. When you add all of this stuff, that it's a very toxic and stressful environment, period. But when you take all of that stress that's put upon them by each other, and then they in turn look to victimize you, that's not okay. And it's a culture of cruelty. It is. And I'm going to keep saying it, and until it catches on, and until somebody in the medical field calls me and is like, let's talk about why you keep saying culture of cruelty. It's a culture of cruelty, because anytime you are at work, your work just happens to be the hospital, and you think that it's okay, one, to vilify an entire group of patients. I don't care how many bad experiences you may have had with a couple, but you're going to vilify the entire group of patients. Two, you're going to vilify an entire illness that, frankly, you don't even know about. You don't even understand because you weren't educated on it. Period. Dot. But rather than getting mad at that institution that you owe a quarter mil to, you're going to get mad at me for correcting you as the patient, as the expert. That's the problem. Three, to then be able to refer to that patient group by every name, as the homie says, but a child of God, or their name, and it's acceptable. That's cruel. To ignore decades of medical charts, or to misuse your power and your responsibilities as a doctor or a nurse to write incorrect or untrue things in said medical records, that's cruel. To refuse pain medication to someone because you don't like how they said hi to you, or you didn't like their attitude, or oh my God, they were talking and they were actually watching TV, to judge somebody like that and then refuse care, that is cruel. I would say that's called cruel and unusual punishment. And the fact that you guys do this without any any thought or any fear of being reprimanded or disciplined is just downright scary as a patient.
Mm-hmm.
And why is this okay? Why is it okay for doctors to choose their comfort over their patient's medical needs? Why is it okay for a nurse to leave a patient screaming in agony and in pain because I just don't believe them? I mean, they were just walking 2 seconds ago. So what? And then the people that sit around who know this is wrong and you allow it, you the worst.
Mm-hmm.
So this culture has just been allowed to layer upon layer and grow, and now it's sort of like an out of control monster they're trying to put back in the box. And How? I don't know. But what I do know is that it stops here. And what I do know is that a lot of it sprouts from the negative narrative and communal image of sickle cell patients as a whole. The fact that we're not respected, the fact that we're not seen as educated, the fact that we're not seen as moral, the fact that we're not seen as being real patients or people who are in need of their expertise and of their training and of their facilities. And therefore we are not given the respect that all other patients are given just off the rip. Somehow we're forced to earn just the minimal respect to get the minimal attention and the minimal care that everybody else is granted freely.
Mm-hmm.
And I truly believe it's because, as a culture, now I'm talking about sickle cell culture, patients, caregivers, advocates, we don't recognize that expertise, education, moral in ourselves, and then for not in each other. And that those of us who are brave enough to say, I'm the expert, I'm the knowledgeable one, I'm the one that's about to take control of this situation because you're not going to kill me today. Somehow we are viewed as outspoken and troublemakers and seen as, um, you know, being
Difficult.
difficult. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if they know our community does not support us in being all of those amazing things and things that we are, then how in the hell are we supposed to expect their community to do so?
Yeah.
And this thing spreads far beyond the hospital. Let's talk about it. So now we about to talk. I'm going there. You ready? You got your seatbelt on? Okay.
Hold on. Let me
Hold on. Hold on. Get your seatbelt on because here we go.
yeah, nice and tight. Snuggle up.
Yeah, I suggest everybody get their seatbelt on because the fact of the matter is that this way of thinking expands beyond the hospital. Social media has brought us as a world closer together. Social media has allowed us as a sickle cell community to find each other, to form bonds, to create support groups, to organize, to begin to advocate for ourselves on a local level, a government level, and the hospital. It has provided us with the resources to do a great many things for the advancement of sickle cell. And at the same time, it has also allowed us to see just how bad things are out there for our community. Because if you're up 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, hell, 1, 2, 3 in the afternoon, you've seen the dissertations, pages upon pages, posts upon posts, people saying, I can't take this anymore. They're not helping me. I'm in pain. I need an advocate. People all across the country, all across the world. And sadly enough, I think a lot of times those posts fall upon deaf ears and unused fingertips. Like there's no response. And I don't even have time to get into as to why. But people are speaking out. People are recording themselves being mistreated and putting it on the internet. And yet, and still, they're not being heard. They're being seen, but they're not being heard. And they most definitely are not being assisted. And all of this translates and it goes back. It's just a big circle of abuse, right?
Mm-hmm.
But a couple of months ago, I was up as I usually am in wee hours, and I came across a post from a doctor that basically said, um, I took an oath to take care of you. I, most of the time, I want to take care of you, but bashing me, my team, or my colleagues on Facebook is not going to motivate me to take care of you. Now, uh, personally, I was like, what? Huh? I read it a couple more times because, just to make sure my eyes wasn't playing tricks on me, because I know a doctor did not think this, take the time to write it, and then take the time again to press the send button. Every time you put up a post, you got 3 opportunities to stop yourself. When you think it, when you write it, and right before you press that button, it's not you were in the heat of a conversation and oh my God, brain to mouth and I'm sorry. No, 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 no. This is an intentional act that you're doing when you post. Let's just understand each other. And so when I saw that post, I immediately was like, okay, something must have gone down because this post was on Twitter where all of the doctors and the nurses reside, but not really the patients. So let me go to Facebook where we live and see what's going on. And I spent hours looking, seeing like, okay, did a patient just blow up on somebody? Like what happened? To no avail. So nothing. Absolutely nothing. And I know this doctor and I know some of her patients. So I'm really, and my purpose, to be perfectly honest, was to tell the patient, hey, there's a more productive way of complaining about your doctor and your care. And it's our 4-step reporting system that we had just come up with around the time. That was my true intention. But there was no patient and there was no blow up to be had. And then I started thinking more about this. Like, hold up. Why? I looked and I went back to this post on Twitter and it was liked multiple times, 24 to be exact, by other medical providers. I don't know, random people, some patients even. Hold on. Liked, little hearts everywhere. And the doctor who did it had the nerve to hashtag sickle tips, like she was giving advice to us. And the more that I read this and the more I started thinking about it, I was like, first of all, this isn't written to us. This is written to her colleagues. That's number one, because we don't live on Twitter. We are way too long-winded as a people to be on Twitter and be confined to 160 characters. No, that's not going to happen. That's number one. Number two, you don't want the smoke that would come from putting this where in the epicenter of where your patients live on the internet. Okay. But number three, why are you normalizing the idea that somehow patients, one, should not complain about their care, especially if they're getting bad care, to whomever they want to complain about. And then number two, why are you trying to normalize your bad behavior in the idea that it's okay, that you must be motivated to care for the people that you've taken a quote unquote oath to care for?
Mm-hmm.
And the more I read and the more I thought about this, the more insulted and the sadder I got. And I'm going to tell you why. Because this doctor is seen as being one of the premier sickle cell doctors in the country. She is called upon to help and comment and create sickle cell um, health plans and sickle cell clinics, and to consult from from government projects all the way down to the patients that she personally cares for and the clinics and hospitals in between. She has a number of accolades, a number of awards given to her by our community for being this doctor that is dedicated to sickle cell and is just so amazing. And yet, this person that is looked up to is basically saying, you make a complaint or complain about me or my team or my colleagues. So not only are you not just speaking for you, but you're going to speak for the entire medical field. If you complain about us and your care on Facebook, we're going to have to become motivated to take care of you. You're not going to, that's not a way to motivate us to care for you when you come in pain, suffocating from the inside out, barely walking, exhausted, because you had nerve and audacity and unmitigated gall to say the care that I got was not up to par, even though that is your right. The number of people that saw this and then liked it and supported her in this was absolutely mind boggling to me. So I wrote her a letter. I wrote a letter. I gave her the definition of advocate. And I explained to her why her post, her tweet, was not only offensive and hurtful, but just downright out of line and out of pocket. And then I suggested to her a way in which she could solve the situation. And one of them was to stop being and stop calling herself an advocate or a champion for the sickle cell community, because making those kinds of comments, clearly you are not one. Period. And the fact that you made the comment that you made and didn't bother to see through and the damage that it had and can have was just, you know, selfish, truly selfish and irresponsible. But here's the thing. What tripped me out the most about this whole situation with this doctor and my response to her was the response that I got from my own community. My own community dragged me. My community told me that I was wrong, told me that I was not creating a good look for sickle cell by confronting this publicly, even though she made the comment publicly. So I confronted it publicly and respectfully, I might add, more respectfully than she did. Because telling somebody that you can't give your opinion or you can't complain about the bad care that we know sickle cell patients get across the country and around the globe on a daily basis, and that by you complaining, should we find out, we're just going to have to be a little bit more motivated to care for you next time. That that wasn't wrong. That wasn't not a good look. I was confounded. I was confounded at the fact that an entire conversation went on for about a week over this that I didn't respond to. And the reason I didn't respond to it was because I felt like my response was complete when I wrote that letter and I pressed send, post, whatever, tweet. It was complete. This is how I felt. This is what she did wrong. And instead of saying, you know what, you were right, this was wrong. You know what? As a community, we should demand better of even the doctors, especially of the doctors that we put on such a pedestal. And that didn't happen. And part of the reason why is because as a community, we do not see ourselves in being in positions of power. As a community, we do not acknowledge nor respect the expertise that all of us hold as individuals, as people who live with sickle cell on a daily, as people who wake up in the morning and somehow get through their day and somehow manage to do and create and accomplish amazing things, despite the fact that they probably just spent the last 2, 3 weeks barely being able to walk and negotiating with their body, saying, okay, we can't go to the hospital yet because we got a deadline. Somehow we don't celebrate that in our own community. Somehow we think that that's not needed and unnecessary. So if we don't recognize ourselves as being experts, if we don't recognize ourselves as being powerful, if we don't recognize ourselves as having the right and having, not just having the right, but having the responsibility to stand up for ourselves and our community, then how are we going to expect them to recognize that in us? Not one person came to me and said, Marissa, what made you sit down and type this out? Not one person came to me and said, Marissa, how do you see this being resolved? And when I attempted to resolve it in the manner which I was told I was supposed to, our own organizations didn't even acknowledge me, the patient. They did not even acknowledge me. SCDAA, yeah, I said it, not even acknowledge me as the patient, and the person said, this woman is wrong. What she has done is wrong. It is offensive. It is irresponsible. It is an abuse of her power and her position, not only as a doctor, but in our community. She's wrong. As a patient, I was the one that was told I'm wrong. I was the one that was told you had no right to do this. I was the one that was dragged because how dare you? Well, let me tell you why and how dare I? Because I'm an expert in this illness and how it affects lives. That's why. Because I walk with this illness and go to sleep with it and wake up with it and deal with it all day, every day, and have done so for 44 years and plan to do so for at least another 43. Let's understand each other. That's why. But the fact that as a community, we can't acknowledge those rights and responsibilities in each other was probably one of the most heartbreaking and hurtful things that I have been through since beginning my career as a professional patient advocate and doing a live podcast weekly for almost 3 years. It is not acceptable for us to allow anybody to speak badly about us. Yes, Nita, all doctors working in our community are not experts. Very few are. But this isn't about them being experts. This is about us. We are. I don't care how little you know about the history of sickle cell. I don't care how many sickle cell patients you know and stories that you've taken in and all of that. If you are somebody that lives with this illness, you are at the very least an expert on how this illness works in your body. And that's all that matters. That's all that matters. And when you walk into the hospital, that's all that should matter to those doctors and to those nurses and whoever else the hell is taking care of you. That I have been living with this my entire life. I know how I feel. I know what medication works for me. I'm not asking anybody to go out and speak on behalf of the millions of people around the world that live with sickle cell. But I am saying acknowledge the expertise of you in your life. I am saying that we can't continue to celebrate doctors or hospitals or advocates or anybody that seek to degrade, demean, disrespect, dismiss, or just be insensitive to us and what we go through as sickle cell patients. And the fact of the matter is that the medical providers and sickle cell patients, you guys, we we are right here. We are right here, head to head, right here. And it's a power cat. It is. And it is about to go boom. Because you can only be stepped upon and pushed down so much before you rise up. And frankly, her little tweet that was, oh, harmless, that she turned around and said, oh, well, it was just how I felt in that moment. And so you just felt the need to let the world know. And you just didn't let the world know, but you let the world know on the social media platform for all things and all people powerful around the world. If you a government official, if you're the queen, if you're the president of the United States, if you are the founder of Amazon, where do you go to state your opinion and have it be taken seriously? You go to Twitter. Let's just acknowledge that. She wasn't talking to us as patients. She was talking to her fellow people. Hey, we shouldn't have, if they go and they're complaining about us, Well, then we'll just have to be motivated. And I mean, and now I'm gonna set that aside for a minute. Let's take that moment and set it aside. But let's talk about acting with impunity, and let's talk about digging your heels in. Why is it that whenever we as patients stand up for ourselves, why is it that when we correct our medical providers, why is it that when we say these are my rights, they dig in when all we're trying to do is be an educational, helpful resource to them? We're trying to help you save time, help you get me out of here quicker. I'm being helpful, but somehow that's seen as combative. Somehow that's seen as disrespectful. Somehow that's seen as me being an ingrate. You should be happy that we even allow you in our cancer center, in our hospital. Get out of here with all that. Why is it that they then dig their heels in harder and they get meaner and they act worse than they did before we said anything? As if to say, if you continue to stand up for yourself and if you continue to do and ask for and demand what's right, you're going to find yourself in a worse position. And I have experienced this multiple times over the years, from the doctor that erased all of my medical orders, my medicine orders, down to my food and water. I couldn't even get a cup of ice because she was mad at me because I asked her to clarify my my medication that she'd written on the board because it didn't make sense. And I still have the picture. I'll be happy to show it to y'all. What she wrote did not make sense. I asked her to clarify. And because I asked her to clarify, she got mad, walked out of my room, and said, "Don't call me in 5 years when you have to be put in rehab." And then she proceeded to erase all my orders. And she did it at 10 o'clock at night. And I had to call my doctor, wake him up out of his good bed and his good sleep, and have him reinstate my orders. And then she did it again, just to show me what my place was. And then she got put in her place and got fired. Or the other one that took away all of my pain medication and called me a liar because I didn't bring myself down in a proper way, the way that I told her I would. So I was a liar. When in actuality, I had an infection that set in the day after she and I made this plan. And that infection sent me into another crisis. And therefore, I had to go all the way back to the beginning. She didn't acknowledge that infection at all. She just took away all of my pain medication. And when I called my advocate, who just happened to be the nurse manager of the hospital, her response was, "Well, I took it away. Just I wanted to see what her body would do. I wanted to see if she was really, telling the truth."
Wow,
Are you serious
that's
right now? And this type of mess happens all day, every day to us. We're reading about it, we're seeing it. I'm getting phone calls, and this is why we have created our program. And you're right, it is beyond cruel and unusual punishment. It is criminal. It is. And that's why we have to start reporting these things and talking about it in the open. And we have to start claiming our proper place as experts in our care, and people and patients that should be respected for the things that we have experienced in our lives with this illness, and not just brushed off and ignored And then because what we're saying, because we are repetitive with it, because we are demanding that you listen to us, because we don't want to die. We want to get back home to our loved ones and our lives, the things that you think we don't have. Somehow, you know, that that makes us wrong. And now you're allowed to continue your mistreatment. And old girl's tweet, that was just the tip of the iceberg. Because the 24 people that supported her were worse, absolutely worse. The so-called advocates and advocacy groups that told me, oh, Marissa, this is a bad look for us right now. Oh, Marissa, oh, God, we shouldn't be talking about this. Oh, this is something that needs to be handled in private. For what? She didn't handle it in private. She didn't make her comment privately. That wasn't something I overheard and then decided to bring out to the world. Why is it that we cannot give ourselves and each other the respect and the support that is needed in order for us to change this game? That's what I want to know. Because that's what that experience taught me. That's what that experience taught me. That experience taught me that I am not respected as an expert. I am not respected as an advocate. I am not respected as a leader in my own community. I'm not respected as someone who goes out of their way to help other patients, be it on the phone, be it my sleeping bag and my pillow, and I'm sitting in the chair next to them. That let me know I'm in no way valued among my own peers, because I had the nerve audacity to tell this woman, and I'm not going to call her a doctor right now, this woman, that she was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And how
Absolutely.
many times do we see? How many times do we see tweets from doctors and nurses every single day, or comments or whatever? Oh, this sickler did this. Ugh, you know, I had a frequent flyer patient. No, no, you didn't. You had a patient who just happens to have sickle cell that needs you to be more respectful. How about you do that? That needs you to acknowledge them and their experiences. And instead of trying to punish them, and instead of, trying to hurt them and do things that could kill them, like let's keep this 100, take your ego, put it aside, and learn something. And then maybe we can start changing this culture of cruelty. And maybe we can take our narrative and our image, our collective narrative and collective image, and turn it around. So I'm done.
Absolutely.
You would like,
I don't really
go.
have anything to say except, I fully supported you in the post that you made, and to publicly acknowledge that so that people can understand. Just because a person holds some sort of significant position doesn't mean they're not human. A doctor is human. A doctor makes mistakes. A doctor should not be put on a pedestal just because they went to school a little bit longer than everybody else. I'm not taking away from how amazing they are and what they
Mhm.
do. I know some amazing doctors, but I don't put them on pedestals. That's the point. In this community, I understand we need to all work together to be successful in changing the narrative. But when you have people fighting against the tide and going in a different direction for whatever reason, and if their heart isn't in it for the right reasons, this is what happens.
Mm-hmm.
This is what happens because if your heart is truly in it for the right reason and you acknowledge the mistake that you made, you'll be ready to rectify it with the person who called you out about it. And that's real, and that's the talk. That's the real truth. I
Mm-hmm.
don't care publicly. I can say, let me tell you something. If I ever say something to hurt this community in any way, if in the 6 years that I've been doing this, if I've ever said anything publicly to hurt or hinder this community as a whole, I will publicly apologize for it. If I'm ever called out about something, I can acknowledge my pride and my ego is not so big that I can acknowledge that I'm human, that I can acknowledge that the very thing that I'm fighting for, I hurt. And it's okay
Mm-hmm.
to recognize that. It's okay to say, I didn't, I wasn't, I had no idea. No, not I had no idea. I had no right to do what I did and say what I said. And I want to move forward. And
Mm-hmm.
nobody should be, I try so hard not to like, because you know me. I gotta choose my words wisely because I can come off sometimes harsh or abrasive. So I try not to say the first thing that comes to my mind. So I just want to say this. Everybody in the community should respect one another for whatever contribution they're making, regardless of feelings, regardless of any of that. The people that are truly taking the time out to make this community better should be acknowledged, should be respected as such, and should not feel like they don't have that support. We should all celebrate each other. We should not be, you know, just out for ourselves because in the long run, where is it getting us? Where are we in 20 years if we keep it up?
Right. That's
No,
real.
like where are we in 20 years? Because I don't want to be doing this for nothing. When my daughter is grown and she wants to be a doctor, I don't want her to have to come and clean up the mess that's been made from people that's supposed to be trying to help it, and myself included. So that's all I got to
Mm-hmm.
say about that too. I guess I did have something. I thought I didn't, but it came out. I guess it it is what it is.
It
So
it happened.
you know, we're not gonna keep anybody any longer. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you all. I acknowledge your comments a lot. I kind of had to dip out for a second, so I'm sorry. I wanted to show them. But I will say this: all of you who are watching and who continue to support us in all that we do, or even just the videos we make, thank you because you are helping. You're helping, whether you know it or
Mm-hmm.
not, whether you feel like you are or not. You're helping just by watching and retaining the information because we're not on here just talking about makeup and silly things. Like when we get out here, we have real things to say, and you know, usually they're
Very
kind of
much so.
they're gems that you can really put in your pocket and keep with you. So in your
Yeah.
own way, you are definitely making your contribution because you're learning and you can apply that to your life, your family's life, or whoever is close to you. Or even that cousin with sickle cell. I will stop. That one cousin.
A good cousin, a good cousin, y'all.
All right.
Man, go out and talk to them. Recognize their experiences and learn something from your good cousin, man. Real talk. Because I honestly, when people say that to me, I just want to be like, "What's your cousin's name?" And watch
Right.
them
So,
be like, Pookie,
so what is
the
their
rest.
life like? You know, what do they
Yeah,
go through?
I
How
just, I
often do they go to
really,
the hospital?
I want to know for real. But I just want to say to everyone, the purpose of me bringing up that situation 4 months later was not to, you know, restart or
Reignite.
create, reignite. Yeah, something that really wasn't there to begin with. But the purpose was just to show that, to give an example of how, as a community, we're not giving the support needed to each other to make ourselves successful as a community. And that situation for me personally, it's one in which all the facts are there in front of you. And anybody who wants to can go back and look at it. And I'm going to actually post the link in the comments so that you can go back and you can look at it and you can see what she wrote and you can see how I responded and then you can see how the community responded. And I tell you, only two people came out and said, okay, you know, you guys should talk. Or, okay, how is Marissa wrong? If she's wrong, how is she wrong? And I'm grateful for that incident because it got a lot of people talking. They weren't talking publicly, but they were talking. And I got a lot of people who hold a decent amount of power in this community to start asking that question out loud and questioning this idea that our doctors should be motivated to take care of us, and to start talking about the fact that all of the responsibility is laid at our feet as patients. Nothing is ever the doctor's fault, the hospital's fault. And even when we call for advocates, it's like, well, what did you do wrong? Like, I remember I called for an advocate, and the advocate that contacted me asked me what I did wrong. Why is it that even as a community, we have such a negative communal view of ourselves? I don't know. We'll be here for another 17 days and we ain't got that kind of time because my back hurt. But, you know, from that though came this program that we've done. From that, sickle cell abuse, stop sickle cell abuse went from being a hashtag for a 4-step reporting system to being a campaign. And by this time next year, a movement, because we are building upon it and building upon it. So I encourage everybody, please go to stopsicklecellabuse.com, read about the mission, become a member, sign up so that you can get information. And when we have our next class of medical advocacy training, which is in a couple of months, sign up for it. And if you want more information, you can do it in the comments. You can go to the website and say, send me more information. You can even contact Dr. Simone, as she is our current instructor, and get the information about it. Call me personally. I talk about it. I'm so excited. But That's where we are. So, again, thank you for joining us. East Coast, we're sorry it's so late. We're going to do better next week. Um, and, leave people in places better than you found them, and you will become a better person.
All right, and I will leave you off with my positive words of wisdom, which is start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can. Until next time, thank you, everybody. Peace.